This presentation covers the life of Samuel Clemens, or you may better know him as Mark Twain. He lived from 1835 to 1910. Mark Twain was born Samuel L. Clemens in 1835 in Hannibal, Missouri, a small town on the banks of the Mississippi River, which became the setting for many of his most famous stories. Clemens left school at age 11 after the death of his father and became an apprentice to a printer, where he became interested in writing. He published his first work at age 16. His childhood influenced his famous novel, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and its sequel, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. After 4 years as a journeyman printer, Clemens became a Mississippi riverboat pilot, which ended after 3 years when the Mississippi was blockaded at the beginning of the Civil War. Therefore, he briefly volunteered as a Confederate soldier. Next, Clemens went to Nevada, hoping to strike it rich in the silver mines. Unsuccessful at getting rich quick, he took on the pseudonym Mark Twain, coming from the riverboat term meaning 2 fathoms of water, and he worked as a frontier humorist for the Virginia city publication, the Territorial Enterprise. After 6 years out west, he moved to New York to write, during which time he was commissioned to travel abroad to the Holy Land, about which he wrote his first book, Innocents Abroad. This book, along with his next, Roughing It, about his original journey out west, established Mark Twain as a very popular author. Mark Twain's first novel, The Gilded Age, coined the term he used to refer to the post-Civil War age of unbridled individualism and speculations, which it satirized. Ironically, since his marriage 3 years earlier to Olivia Landon, daughter of a wealthy coal merchant, he also lived the life of luxury he criticized in the novel. After writing Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn about his childhood growing up on the Mississippi, he wrote Life on the Mississippi, about his 3 years as a riverboat pilot. His work became more serious with his next satire on royalty, religion, and the chivalric ideals of Arthurian England, with his next book called A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. His work became increasingly bitter and angry in its attacks on bigotry and the greedy, cruel, hypocritical, and even predatory nature he saw in humanity, as shown in works such as Puddinghead Wilson, The Man That Corrupted Hadleyburg, Persons Sitting in Darkness, and The Mysterious Stranger. Why did Twain become so bitter? A series of personal tragedies undoubtedly contributed to Twain's metamorphosis as a light-hearted humorist to a pessimistic satirist. His son died as a child, and his wife and 2 of his 3 daughters all died at a young age of various illnesses. These family deaths left him lonely and embittered. He also suffered great financial loss and bankruptcy after a series of bad investments. He had to pay off his debts by traveling the world on an exhausting lecture series. During this time, he also wrote his autobiography, which was published posthumously and reflected his disillusionment with humanity. Twain's writing is often satirical and harshly critical of human nature. He uses everyday characters, often of low socioeconomic status, and uses local color through the use of dialect and an accurate regional details, such as realism in his honest portrayal of everyday life. His writing is often humorous and is often ironic. Below you'll see a picture of Twain and one of his famous quotes, "Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect." The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Although frequently criticized and even banned throughout history for being what some called, quote, racist and others called, quote, too progressive in its view towards race relations, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was one of the first works by a white American author to depict a black character as fully human, for which Ralph Ellison praised Twain, and yet has been criticized for its frequent use of the term nigger and its portrayal of Jim as a stereotypically passive and sometimes simplistic African American character. The novel's sympathetic depiction of Jim as honorable, selfless, and caring, and his strong bond of friendship with Huck, who rejects the hypocrisy of society that supports and justifies slavery, reveals Twain's rejection of slavery despite his nostalgia for his antebellum childhood, making the novel an important literary addition to the American discourse on race and slavery. Twain's use of uniquely American material through the use of the vernacular, truly American characters, and settings and themes of freedom and equality had a profound impact on the development of American writing. Ernest Hemingway said of the novel, quote, "All modern American literature comes from one book by Mark Twain called Huckleberry Finn. It's the best book we've had. There's nothing before, there's been nothing so good since." End quote. Here is a cover of the novel of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. There are many different editions and many different artistic portrayals of this novel. And here are the sources that this presentation came from. It came from the Anthology of American Literature, the section on Mark Twain, and all images were taken from Google Images.